Hello, hello again. We have today with us the awesome Brooke Ritchie. She's been with us before, money mindset coach, and just finished talking about how she's famous in California, according to certain people in different countries. And both of us just kind of sharing about how we take our, jobs really seriously as far as knowing that we what we do and being able to influence you all with our life experiences and being willing to share our stories really makes a difference in your lives. So thank you to all of you listening for the opportunity to share with you today. So wanted to bring Brooke on because, as many of you have heard, hired a matchmaker for myself. Always kind of in the background knew that relationships mattered to me more than anything in life, and the food thing was a major obstacle and like was something that held me back for many years because it was like, oh well, if I let myself go, then I won't have the relationship. But in reality, it's like my relationship with myself was so structured and not comfortable that I couldn't attract someone that was most authentic to myself. And anyway, the whole inner work journey that just goes on and continues, and each new relationship showing new parts of myself and new learnings and new growth and everything like that, to now getting very serious with this investment that I've just made. And yeah, just felt inspired to have women who have already done the same thing that I'm on the path to doing for myself come on and share a little bit about their journey, because I know that some of our clients also deal with relationship stuff as well. I mean, we're all dealing with relationship stuff, but some more in the romantic department than others. And I think it's just really important to highlight the challenges that that journey has. And I know from being super close with you, Brooke, that it was definitely challenging in both of us, just the emotions and the turmoil and the doubts and the fears and all the things, right, to get where it is that we are today. So was hoping, which by the way, today Brooke is married to an amazing man. I had the opportunity to meet him, and they let me stay in their beautiful home in California, and just amazing match for you. And I just want to say great work
You.
because he really is fantastic. I always like, it's kind of like, well, he better be good, and being there, but it's like, oh, this is a good match for my friend. So I'm just really yay for that. And yeah, can't wait to learn from you. So maybe
Sure.
you're being kind of a manifestation, like, for everyone listening, you have to understand Brooke Ritchie is always doing mindset work and always doing inner work and constantly challenging the thoughts that are coming through her mind and taking action outside her comfort zone. And despite all the resistance, and I think it's just important to say, like we always say on this podcast, like it takes a lot of hard work, right? You have to really be willing to dive in deep and go past where you thought you could ever go before. And you are just such a testament of being able to walk that walk. So thank you for being brave and modeling that for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you could just share your story of like, whether it's, snapshots or just like the, getting towards your now husband, just, yeah, just like what that process was like for you.
Sure. I well, this is my second marriage. So I was married before, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about that, but I've historically been with Peter Pan types. So those like guys who just are forever teenagers or artists, or that kind of youthful vibe, and they're so fun, and there's so many great things to be said about that.
Yeah. And I
And
just want to say
mhm,
quickly, like, I really appreciate you sharing right off the bat about it being your second marriage, because I know a lot of people get stuck in that too. It
mhm,
can be like a really painful thing to experience that. I think I remember you saying it was for you, and like the
yeah.
shame or the embarrassment or the failure feelings that we can feel from that. And what would you say about that with divorce for anyone who has had divorce in the
Yeah,
past and getting over that, etc.?
I mean, it's a process, definitely. And when I learned how to do mindset work, that's when I really understood that there's no such thing as failure, that I had a really rich experience with this person, and we did what we did to make it work. And it was the most valuable growth experience for me of my life. And so he and I are still friends. I completely honor him for, going on that journey with me. And it was really the mindset. I mean, I say this all the time to my clients, is like, mindset is a lifestyle. It's not like a one and done thing. Like you're continually working it and working the tools and doing it. So I just wanted to point to that too.
Yeah, definitely. And like for those people who may not know, like when you say mindset, like what that like what does that look like on the grounds, like day to day, knowing that it wasn't a failure? Like how do you turn that ship around?
Well, there are many, many techniques, many ways to climb the mountain of mindset. It's really getting into your subconscious mind and seeing what's been programmed there since we were kids, meanings that we made from events that happened, and how people can see a car wreck from different perspectives and see completely different things. It's the same thing with us. Like I could have made it mean that my divorce was the best thing that ever happened to me, or I could have made it mean it was the worst thing and it destroyed me. So it was really just, it's a process of uncovering what's subconscious. And so technically, like from a technical standpoint, I guess that could be like inquiry work, and emotional freedom technique, tapping. I find that to be very useful. Breath work, somatic practices, really. Like for me, it's really inner child work. That was huge on my journey.
100%.
Yeah.
And for those of you listening who are in the program or been in the program in the past, like that's all the tools, that we teach here, and there's always more, right? But tapping and the inner child reparenting and the belief turnarounds and the right, like all of that work is just, it's all part of the mindset, self-forgiveness.
Forgiving others.
Forgiving
just
others.
It's really about, and in NLP, like clearing the baggage, taking out the trash, realizing that we're meaning makers, and being empowered to make meaning instead of victimized by it, by what our minds just do automatically.
Got it. So there you are, had the divorce. And is that when you found mindset work?
No, I was a therapist at that time. So I was doing a lot of psychotherapy, and I learned a lot about attachment and all that kind of stuff. And I was very deeply supported through that process of the uncoupling process and all the things. And then I just kind of like bounced around, and I was teaching yoga, teaching dance, kind of just like trying to find my way and healing, really. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what I was doing. I was just healing myself, finding feminine energy. I was introduced to femininity, or feminine masculine energy, and kind of dived into that subject, did some trainings, all the things. But it was really when I found a coach that everything turned around. And I found a coach for money. It wasn't for relationship. And it's so amazing, because when you hire a coach, it's just ripples into every single part of your life. Which I know you see with your clients all the time, and I see with mine, that it's not just about money. It's not just about food. It's also relationships. It's also, health and all the things.
Absolutely. And what I'm really hearing from your share is like your unstoppability. And like, to me, that is who Brooke Ritchie is like, she is just unstoppable. Like, and like your commitment to, following your path and doing what feels good and doing what makes you feel good, even through hard times, like dance or whatever, just like do whatever you got to do to have anything that you want to have. And like, that's how you got here today. So I love that. So you already had your training from your master's program, doing somatic stuff and understanding about attachment stuff. If anybody hasn't read the book Attached, I highly recommend, just your own awareness around attachment styles is huge with relationships. And then doing all the different healing modalities, and then really hiring a coach. I mentioned about how the coach was initially for money. And something that I've realized, and we haven't even talked about this, but is when I made this investment in the matchmaker, like I knew that I was still like attached to money, right? I've gotten past my attachment to the scale. But when it comes to like my bank accounts, like if it's high, I'm happy. If it's low, I'm scared and fearful and panicked, right? I'm sure so many people can relate to that. And there comes the negative voice of, you made a mistake, you shouldn't have spent that, blah, 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 blah. But I also had this awareness that with that money attachment, and I can't help but to believe, my theory is, and I'm sure there's proof behind it, of like, wherever we're still attached, is going to show up in our relationships, right? So I pay all this money to meet my future man, and it's forcing all of my money stuff to come up, right? Which I remember your story from hiring your first coach was like, you were, robbing Mary to pay Paul, or whatever that expression is, to make it happen for yourself. Right. But like, rip that band-aid off, essentially, again, with the unstoppability of doing whatever it takes, doing that, scaring the crap out of myself. But then because of that, I'm being forced to do a lot more inner work on myself and clear my attachments to money, which I think is paving the way towards having that most authentic future marriage / relationship. So I'm curious, do you see those two tied together for yourself?
Yeah, I do. How would I see that tied together for myself? Um it's really about scaring the crap out of yourself. I mean, that's really it. It's like having so much courage, because it does take courage to have spend your money on something and you're not sure if you're going to get a return on investment in it, and like, and it's the same thing with dating too, right? Like you're not, it can bring up everything for you. And then it's up to us to just become present to it and to clear it if it's not serving in whatever way. Yeah.
100%. I'm just thinking about people who don't have a coach or a container to like, it's like, you literally, like, I'm just literally thinking about it. And I'm like, you literally can't do this unless you have a container and a system to actually continuously be clearing that stuff out. Like, if you don't know how to do that,
challenging.
You don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
And
it's really the most valuable thing I've ever invested in my life. And I love begging from Peter to pay Paul or whatever. Like, yes, yeah. If it means I'm going to have an awesome return on my investment, meaning like in my personal development, I'm going for it. I'm all in. I'm like, yes. And I'll figure it out and I'll be resourceful, and I'll go into debt if I need to, like I'm not scared anymore to make that kind of investment in myself, because it really does pay off with happiness, with life satisfaction. And then, when you're satisfied in your own life, everything just comes your way, is attracted to it.
So awesome.
The business follows, the partner follows.
Yeah. Business follows, the partner follows. Yeah. I think like not being scared about getting into any debt, like that's been that ripping the band-aid off for me. I was like, oh God, like got to make sure that I'm paying our awesome team and, like a lot of responsibility and paying the mortgage on my house and like all the different things, I don't have children at this point, but still, but 100% agree with what you're saying. Like I'm, I just scared my pants off.
Yeah. And then you're not attached to the money story that you can't pay off the debt. It's like, you can create more money to pay off the debt. It's
right.
It's like that easy when you have that kind of skill to flip your mindset.
So good. And I think going back to like how that relates, like I still think, at least for myself, I grew up in kind of a traditional household, and like my mom just worked 1 week in a month as a nurse and was pretty much stay-at-home mom full time. And, my dad worked. Like that wasn't always the dynamic when they first met. My mom was working and my dad was going to school. Right. But like the whole time I've been alive, that was the dynamic, and it was just like, I just want what mom has. And this is the dynamic that it should be. Right. And I never gained that muscle of like, of course I can pay it back, or like, you should use debt to like create the life that you want and invest in these things. Like that stuff was not hammered into me. And so, when going out into the dating world, it's like hard to not carry that stuff with you of like these expectations, like, well, of course you'll pay for everything for me. Like that's what dad did,
Yeah.
I wasn't, I don't think I was spoiled. We didn't get like new cars when we turned 16 or like, like we did like, but it was like always your basic needs are met and we're always going to have dinner every day. And like, yeah, dad's going to like support the family and, college and these kinds of things. So, but yeah, there's that expectation. But my experience now has been like that self-trust in myself that yes, I can pay it back. I can take full care of myself, because then I think when I have that muscle ingrained and it's getting stronger every day, to be able to show up on a date with like, I don't need anything from you, which we were just chatting prior to this of like your now husband, of like how that was the attractive force to him. So Could you speak on that?
Yeah, sure. I felt, when I met him, I was working with a coach, a relationship coach specifically, on clearing all the inner child stuff and figuring out what kind of meaning I was making from being with these different relationships and dynamics, and really just like doing a lot of personal development discovery before I learned the actual skill of like how to be on a dating app and how to get them off the app and how to use your feminine energy to, move the relationship or whatever, receive in the relationship. But so yeah, I felt really successful in my own right. I was feeling like on top of the world. I was doing all this work. I knew exactly, my coach worked with me too. I knew exactly what I could bring to a relationship. Like I was really clear on what value I offer as a woman to a guy. And yeah, of course he's attracted to that. He's not like, up until then he was dating, women who wanted to live off of him and, to say it totally bluntly, but yeah. And so I think that really just was like, okay, she's, I was coming from a resourced place, and that's very, very attractive, or it was attractive to him.
Yeah.
And it was really because I felt whole and complete inside in myself anyway. And yeah.
Love it. You mentioned being very clear on the value you were
Yeah.
bringing to the relationship. So what value did you know that you could bring?
Well, I knew that I'm a business owner, and that I can run my business, and it's standing on two legs still. And that I had that feminine training, that I know what I know what I'm doing. I'm healthy. I focus on my health. I bring, a lot of laughter to a household and joy. And I just let myself be myself, which was different from the way I was attracting before, which was like, what does he want? How does he want me to be? Trying to contort myself and fit into, or chameleon myself, fitting into a little box of what I projected that he wanted. And I never really felt comfortable.
Wow. Which would ultimately lead you down a dead end road, or waking up one day saying I'm miserable because, yeah, which I'm sure I can definitely relate to that. And I'm sure so many people can as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've heard so many people talk about, it's always when you feel at your best, and just whatever, that you really attract that partner in.
Yeah.
And at the same time, right, I just asked my matchmaker this the other day, of being like, should I wait longer until I really feel that? And she was like, well, I really, there's different ways of doing it, with everybody, but to like date along the way and like get the lessons and keep whatever on the way to that can also be super helpful as well. I remember, I think we shared a relationship coach at one point in the past. It's fine. And she was saying, I was like, well, I don't really feel like I need to date right now. Like, I feel like I'm good with myself and like whatever. And she was like, yes, but you want to be married one day. And I was like, yes, that's true. She's like, so we got to start this work now. And right. And then she had me get on the dating apps or whatever. And it's just like, because it brings up all your stuff. Like, I feel like it's the training camp to have to like do the inner work and also take the actions at the same time of like, okay, well, what did I learn from that date or from that situation or whatever? Face the fears, get the feedback, keep going. It's like really building that muscle up.
And knowing the emotional mastery too, and knowing how to take care of yourself emotionally, so you're not needy, for someone else to fill this hole of self-worth for you, or yeah,
so important. Awesome. Great. So in those initial days of meeting your now husband,
great days.
How would you say, right, because we were just talking with Maddie Fryer about how she took a lot of bold, courageous action, right? She actually flew from Australia all the way over to San Diego, and that was like not typical of feminine, whatever way of going about it. And when she was dating prior to meeting Xander, how she would actually propose like where the date should be, because she wanted to see how they would be in her like favorite situations, right? And like really get a good, right? So she kind of showed she gave us permission to also be masculine and have those conversations that are more like vulnerable and real, like sooner or faster or whatever in the relationship. So I'm curious how you approach that, as far as like, I don't know, like share, how quickly were you sharing vulnerably, and how did you know that he was the one? How about that question?
That's a good question. Okay, for with him, I was very clear that I wanted to get married again. I felt ready. I worked with my coach on it. I cleared any misunderstandings about, being divorced and all the things. And I was like, yeah, this is what I want. And I know that's what I want. Again, because I love being married. Being married is awesome. And so I was very clear and open to I was on the dating apps. That's how I met my husband now. But I was very clear that with each one of them that's what I wanted. And was that something they wanted too? And I remember the first night. So her advice was to get them off the dating apps as soon as possible. If you're attracted to them and you feel like he's interested in you and pulling and driving the conversation, you set up a FaceTime call. So I set up a FaceTime call with my husband, and I remember we connected. I don't know how to explain it, but it's just a connection. It's that je ne sais quoi, like right away you're just looking at each other and like, wow, hi. Yeah. It's like a recognition or something. I don't know. But so by the end of that conversation, I was like, oh, I forgot to ask you, what do you want why are you on this dating app? And he's like, well, I just want to see what happens. And I was like, okay, well, that doesn't work for me because I want to get married. Like, I was very, very blunt. And so I was willing to just let it go. I wasn't attached to any one man as I was dating. And so it was COVID. So I dated, I did some FaceTime calls and like felt things out, and I decided to meet him anyway in person because I just really wanted to. And we met in person, and it was just a beautiful evening. And then I just still was like, well, I friend zoned him. I was like, we can be friends. So yeah, we went on this beautiful evening date, and then I immediately
friend zone. Yeah, what had the friend zone things happen?
I just said, look, I'm looking for a husband, and I'm gonna be talking to other people. But he kept taking action and kept texting me and kept the conversation going. And I was just like, okay, you're a great friend. And he wanted to come over and bring me food and like wanted to start like giving to me in this way. And I kept declining because I was clear on what I wanted, so it was funny because it was like right around that time I was moving. I moved away from him. We lived in the same city, and then I moved south, like about an hour and a half south. And he basically just said, like, why don't you just bring the U-Haul over here before you move? He just knew, I don't know why, but he just knew we were gonna be together for whatever reason. And I was like, haha, you're so funny, whatever. And so I went away and did some dating down there. And then one night after I went on a date, I just felt this urge to talk to him. I was like, I really want to just talk to him. So I FaceTimed him. And that night I had a dream that we were together. And in the morning, it was like 5 a.m. when I woke up, and I said, if he texted me, then I'm just going to go for it. And then he had texted me and he said, I felt something shift in you. And I was like, yeah, it did. I just fell in love with you, basically. So that was it. Didn't see anyone else after that. And we just created a relationship very quickly.
Wow.
Yeah. We got married 3 months later.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is again that amazing risk taker Brooke, who just goes after what she wants. I really admire that. Like when I first met Brooke, it was like the way that she would take actions. It was like, whoa, like it was like definitely out of my comfort zone. I was like, I don't know, like, is that like, whatever, but I've just learned over time. And like, now it's just like, no, that's great. Like she produces results and it happens fast and her decision making's on point and she's very smart. So if there's any judgment on that, it's like, maybe look again, because I've also seen you just like date people and not get married, but like what you knew that was, that was what you wanted. And I'm excited when that happens for myself, because I know what my yes is. And I know that I can move fast when I have a yes. And I've never had that when it comes to saying yes to marriage. So I'm excited to feel it
Very
and learn from
exciting.
people like you. So again, it was kind of like it was, well, that was kind of a different way that she was talking about it, but all of the no's that you were saying, right?
Mhm.
So to be clear, so obviously you knew what you wanted to actually get married, and he,
Yeah.
and so was he persistent that he did not want that? Was that why he stayed in the
No,
friend
at one
zone?
point he just said, I want to get married again. He
Nice.
just pivoted. And I was like, where did that come from? But it just came out of him. I don't know. Our relationship grew into what it wanted to become.
I
And
love that.
we eloped because we got married so quickly. It was just like something I love about him. He's an entrepreneur. He's a CEO. He takes action too, like very swift decision making, like very sharp. So that's something and that's why he's so successful. That's why successful people are successful. They take action, right?
Yes,
We know this.
absolutely. Yes, and faster. No, I think it's
Decisive
a good
action.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we have that. We have a major discount for our program because we
Yeah.
know that people do better when they take the action fast. And it's like,
Yeah.
let's get you in here. So love that. Awesome. Cool. So he pivoted. So sounds like he just really knew that he wanted
Yeah.
to be with you and was just willing to do whatever it took, that is like the definite, classic what the relationship coaches will teach us, right? Of your thing versus
Mhm.
Maddie's being a little bit off the cuff, and looking a little bit different. But I think, let me ask you this. Like, I think the important part is that we are being authentic to ourselves at the end of the day. Like, that's what it's all about, is like,
100%.
if you knew that he was the man for you and was going to be able to give you everything that you knew you already wanted, like, and he was super busy, like maybe you would have, like said something to him or, whatever, like, but that wasn't the case. So you're just staying true to yourself, and what you knew for yourself is
Yeah.
what gave you the result that you wanted to have. And you can't know if it's going to be that person or somebody else, but just
Yeah.
saying no to what is not what you want.
That was the first time I really did it like that, where I was like listening to the little voice inside and just being like, okay, this is right. No, this is not right. And just like, and sharing what I wanted and being firm in what I wanted. Because, yeah, and that was a pivot for me to actually, to actually not be like, oh, he likes me. So then that, like it, and my coach taught me that it's like, you're choosing him. He's not choosing you. You know what I mean?
Yes.
He's chasing you, and then you get to I get to choose. I get to be the chooser. So that felt really good to have that kind of frame and to like to actually feel that empowerment.
100%.
But it's not about him choosing me. It's about me choosing him. Right?
Yeah, that's a huge
Yeah.
one. I can definitely see myself going into that, of like, as soon as I am chosen by someone else, not anybody else, but but when they choose me, it's just like, I don't know, it's kind of like yucky, but it feels like kind of like taking advantage of that, almost, of just being like, all right, well, that makes my life nicer and easier, whatever. But like, then I'm abandoning myself, and that's the, ending up in the dead end road at the end of the day, where you're like, I'm not happy. And it's like, well, why?
Yeah.
Well, because I'm just choosing it because my ego likes to be liked,
Yeah, exactly.
when in
And if you
reality,
think,
I'm not.
mhm.
Yeah.
And if you think about like peacocks, right, out in nature, the peacocks are the boy peacocks, the male peacocks are the one, and I'm sorry, I'm speaking so heteronormative here, but like they are, they're the flashy ones, and then the feminine chooses, like, I want this one, right?
Right.
So she does nothing, she receives, and she just sits in her worthiness of that. Yeah, so that's what I did.
That's beautiful. I'm just sitting and basking in that.
Yeah.
Being a brown peacock, just getting to watch.
Be the brown peacock. See who wants to show you their feathers. And then you have them show you their true colors and who they are. And do they really want to be with you? And then do they want to make an effort? And does it work? And does your communication work?
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. And I know that you sometimes have worked with people on relationships and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
is there ever a way that you can sense when something, say they're making their list, is like something that's inauthentic? Like, say someone's like, oh, I want them to make $1 million, or I want them to, and like, it's kind of like, but there is, sometimes it's authentic where it's like that's a true desire, and sometimes it's like we were talking about, like because
Mhm.
I feel like inadequate in that area or I can't do that myself.
Yeah,
Does that ever come up where you can like,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's really like what is the need underneath that desire? I was just doing this work with a girl last night, um, and she was going through all of her relationships that she's been in and what she didn't like about those relationships and the things that she liked, and it helped her get really clear on what she actually wanted.
Mm.
Like just by looking at your past, it helps it at contrast, right? It's like if you speak about law of attraction or whatever, like the contrast helps you get clear on what you actually want. It's two sides of the same coin.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. And I think that's missing for so many people. And like, I made a list maybe 2 years ago, and then I kind of revised the list after my last relationship. And I do, like, I still have it nearby, and I take a look at it and kind of like, okay. Like after I go on a date with someone, I'll look at it and be like, yeah, no, 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 whatever.
Yeah.
Because I can't tell, I've interviewed so many women and they all have a list. One
Yeah.
woman in particular, she was saying how she and her girlfriends made a pact that they would never get married until they all had every aspect of their own personal list met. And they all did. And they're all very happily married, but they like said they would not settle.
Yeah.
And that is just, I think that's everything.
Yeah. I think it's about looking at the deeper desire. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's like, what does $1 million provide? Like, is the desire under the money? Is it stability? Is it fun? Is it living a luxurious life? Like, and what can you meet in yourself so that you're not projecting any of that onto your relationship or onto your partner?
Yeah.
Like, how can you
Absolutely.
get more whole and complete and feel the stability in yourself first, so that and that's when the magic happens.
Absolutely. And for
This.
yeah, no, and it's
Yeah.
important to share for everyone
Yeah.
listening. So for the people who like, it's like, okay, we hear, perception is projection and projecting on the part. So what would that look like if someone was to project? We can hear you fine.
Project. Okay. Okay, what would that look like? So um if I need stability and I'm grasping for it, it could it could um it could be insecurity. It could come up that way of like, I need you to love me, or say I'm pretty, or like you're reaching for something that you're looking for that you could actually give to yourself right now. Does that make sense? And be
Yes.
like, I'm stable no matter if I have this relationship or not. Like,
Yes.
I am safe and secure right now. And if you actually sit in the present moment, you are safe and secure and stable right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Does
100%. Absolutely.
does that
Even though
example
we
make
may
sense?
feel like anxious and crazy
Yeah.
and all sorts of things, and that's where doing
Yeah.
the inner work is. I
Yeah.
recently got trained to certify people in NLP and timeline
Yeah.
therapy and hypnosis and NLP coaching. And just last night I was walking myself through the timeline therapy, and it's like, prior to doing that, it was like my emotions were everywhere. I felt, all of that, like needy, blah 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 blah. So I think also, and what I would like to talk about next is attachment styles for anyone who hasn't read the book Attached yet.
Sure.
But to just normalize the fact that it's not about being perfectly always centered within yourself. Like there's going to be frantic energy and self-doubt and anxiety and fear. But it's like, how do we manage that in between the times that comes up, and know that it's not about hitting one day this perfect place, but it's like how we meet that when it comes up, and knowing what to do and having the tools to be able to do that. So yeah, let's talk attachment styles. I feel like you're a good person to talk about that with.
Sure. What do you want now?
Recently I took a quiz for attachment styles, and if anybody listening wants to, you can just Google any quiz, but I can't remember the exact quiz that I took, but it gave me percentages for the different, right? Like types, right? Because the reality is usually we all have some of each percentage or whatever. So my number one, the highest one, was anxious attached for myself, which I loved what my coach said from the matchmaker of like, this that can be the most loving type, right? It's like we just can be so loving. And then secure was my second one. And then I think I had a tiny bit, like 20% of fearful avoidant or something. And then like none of the other kind of avoidant, which I can never
Disorganized.
remember.
I think
Yeah.
it's disorganized avoidant.
Yeah. Something like that. So yeah, what can you
Yeah,
talk
what can you
about
share?
attachment style
Well,
wise?
I do know that attachment style can vary in relationship. So
Mm-hmm.
usually we project onto our partners what we had in childhood and the relationships that we had in childhood. So a lot of um, a lot of that can be mirrored in your adult relationships, and it really does depend on the relationship, because some adults have had secure attachments to their caregivers, and I love that an anxious or an avoidant can be shifted
Yeah.
through being in a relationship with a securely attached other. And
Yes.
that happened for me, and that happened for me in my first marriage, and it's really happening for me now, which is, I also feel anxious occasionally, and and just having that secure other, that safe base. They call it a safe base, so you can go, the baby can go out and explore and go see the world, but they have a safe base, a safe haven to come home to, a secure base.
Mm-hmm.
um, so that the parent isn't, or the other is not anxious if the baby goes away for a little while, and knows that the baby will return to the safety of the parent or the other. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
Yep. And for the people listening, like I think that's that's how the style could like have been created from parenting of
yeah,
like, okay, if there wasn't a safe base at home, where you got that sense of safety, then it could create your body or your neurology to kind of react in that more anxious way.
yeah,
But when they say that the baby is anxious, but they have that solid parent, then it could make the baby more secure, which is what we're talking about. So one of the coolest things that I learned, and I love that too, of like, first of all, no attachment style is wrong or bad. All attachment
no,
styles can be worked with. Like they're
yeah,
all just like whatever.
they
There's
change with
a
every relationship.
Absolutely. There's a gal on YouTube who like, she comes across as like super, and like I kind of had a negative thought about avoidant, right? Styles of being like, oh God, like another avoidant person, because I've learned later about the attachment styles and how anxious and avoidant are a very challenging pair to be with, and found myself in a couple relationships where, and the worst part about it is that they feel the most magical when you get an anxious and avoidant together at first. It's like feels enamoring, like this is true love. And then woof, the arguments, it's just this push dynamic that's just very painful, and it like creates a lot of challenging things. So yeah, it just can be really helpful. And to be honest, like I met someone not that long ago and found out kind of early what their attachment style was, because they were also into personal development. And I was like, they're like, is it a deal breaker that I'm avoidant? And it kind of pretty much did that for
For
me,
you.
because it's like, even though not that, I haven't completely closed the door, but for the most part, it's like, I've done that. I know that it's possible. It was very challenging. Like if he like was completely healed from his, but like he hadn't even heard about what attachment styles really were until we talked about it. Right. So
Yeah.
anyway, it can just save, like, because it was like, that was my experience, was like, this is hard work, right? And I can tend to be like the fixer and like being like, okay, here's how we can put our heads together and like make this relationship work or whatever. It's like I could have that, or I could have a relationship that makes me feel just safe and secure, and
Yeah.
like just catapults me to that next level. And that's really what I'm looking for at this point in time, for sure. So that part, um and the fact that both anxious, and anxious works okay together. My sister is mentioning how both she and her partner are both anxious attached, and she's like, it's kind of helpful, because when he starts feeling a little bad, like I know exactly what to do or to say that will make him feel better, because it's the same things that I need.
That's a cute
So
couple.
that's kind of nice, right?
Yeah.
And then there's secure, and then the avoidance styles. So definitely something
Yeah,
for
and that's something I was looking for in a partner when I was doing the work, was someone who worked on his stuff and had done, I kept trying to fix, like I said earlier, these Peter Pan types, and tried to but see their potential, they're
Yes.
going to whatever. And I just realized, like, no, I want to be with the king, not with the prince,
Mm.
So
yes, absolutely.
yeah, because I was working on being the queen in my own life. So yeah. So that was a deal breaker for me, if I heard that someone wasn't doing work or hadn't really done a lot of reflective, like, work, therapy, or didn't even have to be therapy. It could be like, some kind of meditation or some kind of introspective process.
Yeah.
It was a no-go for me.
Yeah, it's absolutely a no-go for me.
Because then it was just me attracting the same thing again and again and again.
100%.
From my unconscious. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just familiar. We always attract what's familiar. And I wanted to attract something different, and something that wasn't familiar, something that was actually healthy. And I really succeeded at it.
I love that. The last person I went on a date with, she's like a big traveler and like ambitious and like whatever, just like going like, oh, I want to go here, I want to go there. And like my truth was like, I feel like I've traveled a lot and I still like travel. I still want to travel. It's like, but to me, like the most exciting travel that I want to do now is like the cosmic inner world travel of a relationship with someone else that like sees the phenomenality of like, what we can do when we're both. And I think there's been so many times when I was, dating the prince, and like, I was like leading that, versus that's just both who we are. And like, that is the most exciting adventure. Like, I want all of it. I want the fights. I want the, the transformations, the awarenesses, I want the whole thing, not drama, but like for growth that a relationship can offer. And then, creating children, hopefully along the way, that we can both just, again, be fascinated by and look at that through that lens. Baby like, it's Leslie. Just so amazing to me. Like, it's like fascinating. And I'm okay with doing that right in a little box of a house. Like, I don't need a ton of space to do that. I just think that, the closer and more connected that it can be. But not being with someone like that, like, I will, like, settling for anything less than that, I will never be okay with it. And that's just something I have to know.
Yeah, I had to do that work too. To see outside of the potential, because it's like, oh, you are so amazing and so great, and I know you can do it, but I'm not here to be someone's cheerleader. I'm here to be a partner and to have a partner.
Yes. Oh, exactly. That's like one of the plagues of being a coach, and maybe sometimes just like a woman, is because there's that caregiver comes out and that cheerleader, and it's like, oh, like you can see their dreams and their potential, and it's like,
no, I want somebody who's done it.
Yes. And who like I can look up to, and
which I do. I very much look up to him.
Absolutely. I can see why. Perfect. And then last thing, I know you've been married for about a year now. Fun. How do you keep the love alive, Brooke?
Ooh, how do you keep the love alive? Well, spending time together. I mean, we both work from home, so we're always together, and also taking space from each other. That's a great question. What did Maddie say?
I didn't ask that question.
Oh, you didn't?
I think that she would say I know that they do relationship check-ins monthly.
We don't do that.
We really discuss every aspect, but you talk all the time.
He takes me out on dates, which are just, he loves to wine and dine me, which I love too. And I'm always teasing him. I'd say that's probably the biggest, is like, I'm always challenging him and teasing him and saying what I want. I call him my genie, because like, if I'm thirsty, there's a water that appears. If I'm, it's like, anything I could ever want, he's just appears.
Yes.
And then a lot of appreciation, like praise. Everyone loves praise and appreciation, do they not?
Absolutely. When I was there, that was like the
joke.
We were like, we rented a car to go wherever for the retreat in Malibu. And it's like, we appreciate you.
Thank
We
you so
appreciate
much.
you.
He
Just,
loves it.
yeah,
And who doesn't love to be
absolutely.
appreciated and loved?
Absolutely. And he deserves it. He's a really nice
Yeah.
man. So,
Yeah.
so happy for you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you
Thank
for
you. Thank
being willing to
you.
share your story. I think there's so many nuggets for people to take away. And I think at the end of the day, it's just really about knowing yourself and saying no to what isn't what you want, and
Yeah.
saying yes to what it is that you do want. And I think that's, as it's very simple, but not always easy. So
So true.
yeah. So for people going through the challenges of that with dating or whatever, what advice would you give them as a send off?
Hire a coach.
Yeah, I
I
know.
mean,
You and I are both
really,
like that. I
it's like,
know.
I mean,
So
especially if
true.
you're stuck in these patterns and you're going to need help. And, you know, you have an infinite universe of YouTube and Google,
Mhm.
and it's only going to get you so far. Like you need someone who's done it and who can really coach you. I mean, even if they haven't done it, honestly, you know, like
To
just
reflect
to get
back.
these tools
Yeah.
and to have
Yes.
that space created for you that you can bounce off you know, ideas and get training, that kind of stuff. I mean, that's really, yeah, that's really the biggest thing. And then working on your side. You can only clean up your side of the street. You can't fix or change anyone else. So waking up to that fact.
Yes.
Um,
So good.
and you know, become who he's gonna want, who your ideal partner is gonna want. How can you become that even more?
So amazing.
Yeah. So that's my
Thank you,
that's
Brooke.
my advice to you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. We appreciate you
Mm,
and your time and your
yeah.
story. So how can people find you?
Oh, you can go to my Facebook group. And it's called Millionaire Mastery, I believe. Millionaire Mastery Facebook group.
Sometimes I have to think about what my Facebook group is called
Ay,
too.
ay,
It's a
ay.
great Facebook group. Brooke
It
has so
really
many
is
awesome
amazing.
tools and high vibes. She's got challenges, all the different things. So definitely check out that Facebook group. Let's look it up right now to make sure that we know the
Okay.
right name for it for everybody. So it is called,
It's called the Money Mindset Shift for Entrepreneurs.
isn't it Money Mindset and Sales Skill
With
Magic?
Sales Skills Magic. That's right.
Yeah.
But the URL is facebook.com/millionaire mastery, I believe.
Okay, we're gonna let you type it in to find it.
Do you love waiting for me to type while
I
we're on
love
a
it.
live podcast?
We just want more time with you, and we want to make
be with
sure
you
we get that
too.
link correctly and put it in the computer.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, people search
Yeah.
Money Mindset and Sales Skill Magic. You can ask to join, and like I said, I think it's an
Yeah,
awesome Facebook
Millionaire
group.
Mastery is the URL.
Awesome, great.
We made
Facebook.com/millionaire
it.
mastery. We made it.
I love
Awesome,
you all
Brooke.
so
Thank you
much.
so much.
Yes. Thank you, Leslie. I
Talk to you
really
again
appreciate you.
soon.
Talk soon.
Bye.